Yo guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So I've just jumped on today to do my pre-market Forex forecast. This will be the Forex forecast for the week commencing the 1st of August 2022. But before I just get started guys, I will draw your attention to the written version of this forecast. So the written version of this forecast will be linked in the description. So if you guys want to reference this, then just click the link in the description. Alright, so let's get into it. Alright, so starting with Nzdusd. So on the daily, what we've got is a bearish overall structure. Now, what we can see is that the last two breaks of structure, we've got this one here, so that originated from up here. So for me, there's a bearish order block there. And then we've also got this one here. And now based on my structural rules, this whole bearish break originated from this here. So for me, this candle here, which has imbalance, is a bearish order block. So that's for me is a point of interest to look to sell from. So in terms of the daily, overall I'm looking at a bearish situation on it, and we've got two areas to sell from. So going into the week, since we're still inside this one and we have actually so far respected it, we've failed to get a body break above it. I will still be expecting that price will start to reject away from here. We'll see that institutional sell volume coming in, and what we'll see with that is price pushing down to then break this low down here. So for me on the daily, that's the first thing I'm looking at, is sells away from this point of interest. Now, failing that, if this high doesn't hold, then I will be anticipating a continuation of this whole bullish move here, and I'll be expecting price to come quite a bit further up towards this area here, and then we can look to sell off out of this order block up here eventually, to then take us into further new lows on Nzdusd. So from a daily perspective, that's what I'm looking at. We've basically got two areas to look for sells out of. We've got this area here, so this order block, and then we've got this other order block up here. So for me, on the daily on NZD, we are looking overall at sells, and we can look for sells out of here or out of here. Now, looking at a 4 hour, what I can see at the minute, we're still in a very bullish structure on the 4 hour. So we have this impulsive bullish move. We've now had a bit of a consolidation, and then we've now broken structure again, leaving behind this order block here. So despite the fact that we are bearish overall on the daily, what we can see is that on the 4 hour, we are clearly in a bullish trend and bullish price action. So for me, really, until we see the 4 hour switch, so until we see that bearish transition on the 4 hour, I am going to expect the 4 hour price action to continue bullish. So for me, I will be surprised until we see the 4 hour break if this daily high here holds. So going into the week, what I'll pretty much be looking at is for the price to continue going bullish with a target of ending up here. So this is just following the 4 hour structure. So for me, if I can get involved in a buy away from this point of interest here, I would be happy to do so. So whether that's a case of following maybe a 15-minute or a 1 hour from the reaction that's already happened, or if we're going to get another reaction further into this POI, and then we can continue bullish away from there. So the first thing to look at this week on NZD, in my opinion, is buys away from this area here. Now, if we do see this 4 hour low here, if we do see this broken, then at that point I will be expecting sells, and if we do see that broken, then for me I'll be expecting this whole daily area here to hold. But like I said, until we see that 4 hour break structure bearish, I am expecting bullish price action now on the 4 hour. So going into the week, I'll be looking for buys following the 4 hour. If we do see that break of structure, or if we do see a bearish break of structure on the 4 hour after a liquidity grab above here, then I will be happy to look for sells following away from this daily area here. But really for me, I'll be expecting the buys to now continue to start to fill this space up here, and then I will be targeting this area up here, which for me is the cleanest POI for sells. So what I'll be expecting is that price will basically continue before our bullish structure, and then eventually we'll end up here, and then we can look for sells away from there. So that's really what I'll be looking at on Nzdusd this week. Like I say though, we could just sell out of this area here. So if we do see an impulsive bearish move that breaks this low, then that is when I'll start looking for sells away from this area here. Alright, so that is Nzdusd. So moving on to AUD. Alright, so on AUD, we were bearish, but we've actually broken above what was the sell-thesis invalidation on the daily, which was there. So at this point, we do just have now one bullish break of structure in play. So for me, on AUD overall, we are looking at a continued bullish move. Now, in terms of where that bullish move could continue from, I think we've got sell volume in this candle here, and then we've also got our extreme OB down here. So for me, if we do start to see, price come down a bit first, then I will be expecting the buys to either come in from this candle here or from this candle down here to then take us up further following this bullish break structure. So on the daily on AU, I'm basically looking for longs at the minute until we see some bearish price action, and I'll be looking for longs out of this area if we're just talking about the daily. On the 4 hour though, to be fair, because if we are going to end up back down here, they don't necessarily need to come down to mitigate this daily order block right now. So what we're seeing on the 4 hour, it's very similar to what we saw on Nzdusd, and we do just have basically an uptrend on the 4 hour, and we've got these bullish breaks structure coming in, this one being our most recent one. So on the 4 hour, I think it's fair to just look for continued buys to continue this bullish move. So going into the week on AUD, I'll basically be looking for buys following the 4 hour firstly. If that fails, I'll still be overall bullish because of the daily, but I'll be expecting the buys to come out of here from where the daily point of interest is. So that's pretty much AU for me this week. We're just looking at following the bullish structure on the 4 hour and the bullish structure on the daily. Now I have got this POI up here marked as well, so I don't normally bother with the weekly, but it's extremely clean, and I think that this is what's actually going on with price. So what we've got on the weekly is we've had this impulsive move here. That's clearly come from this candle here, which has imbalance. So for me, that's a weekly bearish order block. And what I'm anticipating is that the weekly structure is just going to continue nice and simple like this. So really, I think it makes sense that we're bullish at the minute, and I think we're either going to continue this 4 hour bullish structure or we're going to continue the daily bullish structure. Eventually, that'll bring us up into this area here where the institutions can then mitigate this order block, and then we'll see continuation of this overall bearish move that's happening on the higher time frames on AUD USD. So guys, that's AUD USD this week. So euro dollar. Alright guys, so euro dollar, we've basically just got this bearish break structure on the daily. Now for me, there's two areas in terms of this where we could look to sell from. So following this bearish move, we can either look to sell out of here, which is the start of the imbalance before the break structure, or we can look to sell out of here, and that is the extreme order block of this whole bearish leg. So for me, I'm just going to be looking to follow bearish following this big impulse here, and I think them two areas there both make sense. So if we can see our lower time frame entry models coming out of these areas, then I think that makes absolutely perfect sense. So on the daily, that's what I'm expecting on EU, that we're going to continue higher, and then we can sell out of these two areas here. Now, that said, looking at a 4 hour, we do just have to consider what's going on here. So we have now had two consecutive bullish breaks on the 4 hour. So overall, we've transitioned to a bullish trend on the 4 hour in a rules-based way. Now, within that, however, what we've had is most recently, we've then had a bearish break. So now for me, we are still in a bullish trend because this is potentially just a liquidity grab below here. But we have still shown that bearish intent, that bearish impulsive nature. So we have to consider that price may now just follow through from this order block and then go lower down. So on the 4 hour, basically, I think that it's fair to look for sells out of here. Now, I definitely won't be rushing into this because, like I said, I think we've got reason to come higher and we are in an overall bullish trend on the 4 hour. But we have shown that bearish intent there, so there is definitely a possibility that we could be transitioning now into a bearish structure. So I think sells out of this order block here makes perfect sense. But guys, like I say, I would be careful, and there's a decent chance that this will just be violated on Monday. So if it is violated on Monday, then I will just be anticipating continued bullish price action, which I'll look to follow on the 4 hour, and then that will take us up into these areas before we can then look for that larger sell-off. But if we do see clear rejection from here with our lower time frame entry patterns, then absolutely I don't see why we can't take sells to target at least this low here, if not further down. So guys, that's pretty much EU. We've got this sell opportunity here if it holds. if it doesn't hold, then we're most likely going to have a bullish opportunity to buy with on the 4 hour, and then we can look to target initially this area, and then if this doesn't hold, I'll still be overall bearish, and I will expect price to sell off from this area up here. And specifically, we do have a very clean refinement with that candle there. So that's pretty much what I'm expecting on EU, and I hope that was clear for you guys. So if you've got any questions, just leave a comment. Alright, so pound dollar. So pound dollar, like I spoke last week, we've got these two bearish breaks. So within that, I was looking at potential sells out of there. That clearly didn't happen, and we did see this high broken. So with the break of this high, that's basically giving us bullish intent. So we've got our first bullish break of structure. Now, for me, like mentioned last week, we still have this order block here for sells, which has imbalance. So to me, it's not really surprising that we broke above that. And I actually think that it made sense, but we break above that, and then now we're in this area, so we could potentially look to sell off from there. So for me, what I'm really expecting is that out of this area, we're probably going to see institutional sell volume come in. So that'll then take us down, and then we have got this bullish order block down here, so potentially we'll end up traveling from here down to here, and then we can see whether we're going to have a bullish reaction and a follow through, or maybe just a small reaction and then a continued bearish price action. So that's pretty much what I'm expecting on the daily. We've tapped in now to this bearish order block, so I'm expecting some type of reaction from this bearish order block, and then we do have the bullish order block down here, so I think it makes sense for us to react from here to then travel down here. Now, with that said though, the 4 hour is super important, so I would recommend just following the 4 hour to find out what's actually going on in the short term. And the 4 hour right now is just clearly bullish. So what I'll be looking at this week is a transition, a retrace back into this order block. So I'd imagine this is probably going to happen Monday or Tuesday if it's going to happen. So I'll look for retrace back into this order block, then we can look for that lower time frame trend transition, and then look to enter bullish out of there. And of course, this order block doesn't have to hold, so this 4 hour structure could just continue to break the wholesale thesis. But obviously the order block here is still valid, so we will have to see. So for me on pound dollar, we've basically got this first bullish opportunity, and then when we do get up into here, so I probably will expect it to actually come higher into this area, because we've not actually filled the imbalance below that candle yet. So for me, ideally, we're going to continue to come up. We're going to come higher than this wick here, and then at that point is when I will expect sales to potentially come into the market. So going into the week, I look for buys from the 4 hour, sells from this area on the daily, and then with those sells, I'll be targeting hopefully at least down here, and then we can see if we're going to get that bullish reaction to then take us back higher, or if we are just going to break the low and continue with this overall downtrend that's happening on pound dollar, which is probably the more likely outcome based on all this price action here. So that is pound dollar for me this week. Basically looking at the overall bearish situation, but we are currently in a counter trend buy move. Alright, so pound yen, so a little bit more complex than them ones, but basically we've got this bullish break of structure, we've also got this break structure which I haven't got marked, but this break structure here has basically left behind this extreme order block at the low. So for me, like I spoke about the last few weeks, price still has a reason to come down here. Now, more recently, we have seen this bullish breaker structure, which left behind this bullish order block. So we could definitely just see a continuation away from this bullish order block, which will then take us into new highs. However, the thing with that is that for a start, we've still got reason to come lower because we've got this whole order block down here, and as well as that, we actually have already rejected off this order block. We then came back down to retest. So at that point, really, if it's going to go fair for me, I'm expecting price to just follow through to then break this high. However, that's not what's happened. What's actually happened is the 4 hour has now gone bearish. And like I spoke about this order block last week, we literally came back up into a bearish order block, which I spoke about. And then we've just started to go down now. So within that bearish situation, which I was talking about last week, we've seen it start to play out, and then we've now seen a second break structure coming through, leaving behind this clear order block here. So really for me, at this point, I'm just bearish on pound yen for the time being, and I will look to continue this 4 hour sell move, which I spoke about last week. So for me, I look to sell out of this area, and with that, I'm expecting price to continue down to eventually end up in this order block down here. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at on pound yen really this week. It is just going to be this sell move. Now, obviously, you know, if we get deeper into this area and then we start to see the 4 hour fully transitioning back to bullish, then at that point I probably would look to go bullish. But right now, what I'm seeing is bearish price action on the 4 hour, and I will just look to follow that going into the next week. And I don't think that we're going to get down here next week. So for now, I'd recommend just keep focused on the 4 hour with pound yen. So guys, that's pound yen for me. And that's it for this week's forecast. So guys, thank you very much for watching. If you do like this content, if you do like my forecast, please do subscribe to the channel because it does help me out. And please do comment if there's anything that's not clear to you guys. So guys, I hope you have a great trading week and stick to your trading plans, stick to your risk management and trade safe guys. Have a good week.